What draws people to Sri Sri Ravi Shankar is the question that you may have been asked a zillion times by now.
Arnab, actually I don't know myself.
You must have analyzed it at some point of time.
I don't have time to sit and analyze why people come to me, what I should
Why do people have so much faith in you?
Perhaps I walk the talk. Because of that, they know that I am sincere. I walk the talk.
What do you mean by walk the talk?
Walk the talk means I don't keep something inside and something outside. Whatever I am, I'm like an open book. So people know that. Who have come close to me, come near me, they know me.
How do you handle so much attention? I was just standing outside and everybody here wants to look at you, have some time with you. I know I am probably a very envied object in this hotel where we are doing this interview today, because many people would want 30 seconds with you, a conversation with you, a question to you. They want their children named by you.
Well, there is so much love in people, and perhaps that gets a little kindled. And I don't see there is some very special thing about it. If you express love, and that comes back to you many folds. And all I know is that sense of belongingness with everybody.
Shishi, I have often wondered, reading about you and meeting you and having the opportunity of speaking to you, whether a person like you and your movement can become a threat to traditional religion. And I see this quote, you were asked this question about your relationship with religion. And you said that people want to do something authentic, explaining why so many people come to the art of living. People want to do something authentic based not just on belief but on the experiential system. Please explain that to me.
Yeah, one is intellectually understanding, other is feeling from within, feeling that in yourself. You hear about Atma, Paramatma, you hear about God and all that thing, but unless you feel that peace, the calmness, the love within yourself, this just remains a concept in the head. This is where I say spirituality and religion are little different. Religion gives you concept, rituals, but spirituality gives you that experience, makes you feel that oneness deep within and with people around you.
So aren't you a challenge? Aren't you yourself then a threat to standard forms of religion?
Yeah, there are people with prejudice are now almost in every field, and they are threat to society and the freedom in society. I personally don't feel that someone is a threat to me or someone is my enemy. To me, only prejudice exists here and there, and I have been walking in between the prejudice world.
Now, have you felt anywhere, because you attend several conferences, meet several religious leaders, has this conversation ever come up that Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, the form of spirituality which you practice, can take away someone from a religion, and for example a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Christian can be drawn more towards you than to their own, than to the religion that they were born in or the religion they profess?
This type of concerns or fear or unfounded paranoia exists, prejudice exists in the world, many places. I tell you, when I was in Iraq, I was in Karbala, in the Karbala University. When I went, the Vice Chancellor met with me. He said, "You are teaching computer class to people, that's okay, you can do that. But don't take away the anger from them."
Don't take away
the anger from them.
Anger from them.
I said, don't teach them meditation and this brings down their anger. Don't do that. They need the anger to have tit for tat with the Americans. So there was a concern in that gentleman. He was from a Pakistani origin. He was the Vice Chancellor in Karbala University. there is a concern that whether it will take away your activism or anger when you meditate, when you become calm, happy and content within you. It takes a lot of effort to convince them that, see, it's not taking you away from your religion or from your activism, but it only gives you more alertness, more sense of communication. This communication becomes better, sense of calmness within you, which is most needed for people. It took some time for me to convince these people, and there are many such people who have prejudice against any spiritual guru. Somewhere out there they are not normal, sort of oh, they must be cheating you or fraud. Without even defining what is fraud, people say you are fraud. This is what I'm saying. This sort of prejudice in the society is very dangerous. In some way, spirituality or say even religion keeps people away from drugs, alcohol, depression and all these menace in society, in the modern society. It keeps them away from this. And violence, violent tendencies, broken families. You see, so many social issues arise when they lose or when they don't get in touch with that inner core of what we call spirituality or the inner calmness.
Your teachings are very simple. Your words, the way you express them are very, very simple. Even I have not practiced it. Maybe I'm not physically fit for it, but the Sudarshan Kriya. And I have been reading about how people have been coming to all over in America, and they do, Soham. They have your tape saying Soham, and the Sudarshan Kriya.
It's just one of the technique. Many yoga,
but it's very simple.
Very simple.
It's very simple. Now spirituality is supposed to be complex, isn't it?
No. I've kept it so simple. Also, kept many of these techniques so secular that people from any religious background or faith background can adopt and feel the benefits of it. See, our vision is to have a violence-free world, violence-free society. That's what I have been dreaming from a long time. And in pockets, of course, it's happening. People are moving away from violent tendencies there. But there is a long way to go in the world.
Do you feel that you have a spiritual radiance? Let me put it very directly. There are people who say that there is a form of, there is a radiation in your presence. And this
radiation is very dangerous or not?
You see,
people try to protect themselves from radiation.
No, why I meant it, because a lot of your followers, there are some followers who see a certain divinity in your presence. I'd like to quote one of them and get your reaction to it. This is Truman State University professor and Shankar follower Lloyd Pfluger, who says, I feel Sri Sri has a very strong radiation. It's not constant, it's like a peacock. It's not all the time when a peacock spreads his feathers, but when he does it, you can't ignore it. I have been around Sri Sri when the feathers are spread in various degrees, and there are times when I felt I would physically melt from the spiritual radiation I was feeling from him. Why would he feel that way?
If you're a student of physics, everything is vibration. You meet somebody and you feel like talking to them. You meet someone else, you try to avoid them. Many people try to avoid Arnab because they're scared what she's going to ask. Many people are so enthusiastic to listen to Arnab. So there is a certain vibration we all emit. Every individual has that vibrational component to him. So the whole universe is just a wave function. And it's for the person to feel, some people feel the love and compassion. Some people feel whatever feeling they get. So the feelings get triggered by anything, If you are a clear mind, a baby is good enough for you to invoke the joy and happiness within you.
You're simplifying it. However, the one thing that I have found, I'm a student of sociology. Shri studied sociology in college and later in university. And I feel that people respond to you in a different way from other spiritual leaders. The one thing which I find constant among most people who speak to me about you is that they feel personally mesmerized by you in your presence. And I want to understand how that happens. Many rationalists have explained these things in different ways. You know, let me quote another person. And these are not people who are, these are university professors and people of a strong scientific temper. Nancy De Silveiro, quoted in another article, says, there was a moment when he just locked in, looked me in the eye and stopped. And I went into that classic description of pure bliss, pure peace, just everything was right. It happens because he's established in being and he runs around in unbounded time-space. In his presence, if you let go, that's available. Explain this, what she's describing, some people are saying is transmission or Shaktipat, a long-standing phenomenon which happens between gurus and their disciples. I want you to explain it to me. What was happening to her?
I know experiences cannot be explained. It can only be experienced. It can only be felt. So many people get these experiences, and I would usually recommend them, don't get attached to the experiences. Many good experiences may happen. Whether it's in meeting or in meditation, you may get different experiences. You may feel some fragrance, you may feel this and that. But what is most important is to see the experiencer, the seer beyond the scenery, the experiencer which is beyond the experience. When you see that we are all made up of one consciousness, one light, one being, and when we put our attention there, that's when you get that enormous strength and compassion, sense of belongingness with everybody around you. So this is an inner phenomenon, internal happening that happens. So why someone feels happiness, why someone feels compassion, why tears come in someone else's eyes, there is no explanation for it. If you see in our Shastra, it says when the granthis open, the nadis in the body open, then some of these experiences do come, tears do come, you feel a lot of joy, happiness come. In the Yoga Shastra, some of these are said, but in spite of that, there is no concrete explanation that can be given about these phenomena.
You don't see yourself as a healer.
No, I see myself as a child who refuses to grow up. Healing does happen. Wherever there is love, healing happens. It depends on the receiver.